Subscribe to my YouTube channel. It had been 5 long years since Ethan Chin, the cold and powerful CEO of Chin Enterprises, signed those divorce papers and walked out of Ella's life without looking back. In his world of high-rise buildings, billion-dollar deals, and ruthless boardroom games, he had no space for a woman who once warmed his heart, let alone the idea of a family. Cinderella, as the tabloids once mockingly called her, was gone. Just a poor orphan girl who dared to marry into a billionaire family, only to be discarded like a broken glass slipper. Back then, he had every reason to leave, or so he told himself. The rumors, the betrayal, the photos that arrived at his office, showing Ella with another man. Ethan never gave her a chance to explain. He believed what he saw, crushed the truth under the weight of his pride, and left her with nothing but a signed paper and a broken heart. His last words to her still echoed in her ears, even today, cold, sharp, and final. From now on, we are strangers. And they were, until fate decided to play a cruel trick. It was supposed to be a normal afternoon, a charity event hosted by his company at a local community center. Ethan rarely attended such events, but today he showed up for a quick appearance, handshakes, photo ops, and some polite smiles. That's all it was meant to be. But as he walked past the children's play area, his feet froze. There he was, a little boy, no older than 4, running across the grass with a paper crown on his head and a wooden sword in hand, laughing freely, wild curls bouncing with each step, eyes sharp and clear, like 2 drops of dark ink. Ethan's breath caught those eyes. They were his. The same shape, the same deep color. The boy even had that little crease on his chin, a rare trait that ran in the Chin bloodline. Ethan had it, his grandfather had it, and now this boy, he couldn't look away. He felt the ground shift beneath him, like everything he believed, everything he had buried in the past, was clawing its way back to the surface. Just then, a familiar voice called out, "Ryan!" "Slow down, baby." Ethan turned. Ella. She looked different, not the fragile girl he had abandoned 5 years ago. There was strength in her now, a quiet confidence in the way she held her head high as she chased after the boy. Her clothes were simple, her makeup barely there, but something about her presence felt powerful, like life had broken her, and she had rebuilt herself brick by brick. And the boy ran straight into her arms. "Mommy, look, I'm a king today." Ella laughed softly, brushing a leaf from his hair. Her gaze never noticed the tall figure standing frozen across the field. But Ethan couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't stop the question that formed in his mind and refused to leave. Was that his son? His heart slammed in his chest. No, it couldn't be. She would have told him, right? Unless she didn't. Unless she had been pregnant when they divorced. Unless everything he believed about her, about the betrayal, was a lie. Suddenly the walls of certainty he had built around himself began to crack. Memories came rushing back. The way she had cried that night, begging him to believe her. The way she held her stomach when she thought he wasn't looking. The unopened letters she sent after the divorce. All returned to sender without a single glance. He had erased her so completely. He never gave her the chance to speak her truth. And now, 5 years later, the truth might be staring him in the face, in the form of a little boy who looked exactly like him. His legs finally moved. Step by step, he walked toward them, his mind spinning with questions. Was he too late? Was this the price of his pride? Ella noticed him just as he came closer. Her body tensed, The smile faded from her face. She stood up slowly, placing her hands protectively on the boy's shoulders. "Ethan," she said, flatly. He hadn't heard her voice in years. It still sent a chill down his spine. He opened his mouth, but no words came, just 1,000 regrets, buried under the silence between them. The boy looked up at him, curious. "Mommy, who's that man?" Ella didn't answer right away. Her eyes locked with Ethan's. A silent war of emotions. Pain, anger, fear, and something else he couldn't name. He finally found his voice. "Who is he, Ella?" She smiled bitterly. "Does it matter now?" But it did. It mattered more than anything. Because Ethan wasn't just a CEO anymore. He was a man standing on the edge of a truth that could change everything. And in the eyes of that little boy, he saw a past he couldn't escape, and a future he might have already lost. Ethan stood quietly in his sleek office, his fingers lightly tapping on the glass table as his thoughts wandered. He had just learned that Ella, the woman who once stole his heart and then broke it without a word, had returned. But what shook him even more was the rumor, one whispered with caution, that she had a child, a boy, around 5 years old. The math wasn't hard to do, but Ethan refused to jump to conclusions. Still, something in him stirred. Restless, curious, angry, and hopeful. Ella, on the other hand, had lived the last 6 years in quiet struggle. After leaving Ethan, she had settled in a different city, raising her son, Alex, away from the shadows of the past. She told him stories of a brave man who loved her once, without using Ethan's name. But even a child knows when something is missing. Alex would often ask, "Mama, why don't I have a dad like the other kids?" And Ella, with tears hidden in her eyes, would smile and say, "You have me, sweetheart. That's more than enough." But now that Ethan knew she was back, he wasn't going to let this go. He hired someone to follow her, not to threaten, but to learn the truth. And the reports confirmed what he feared, or hoped. Alex had his eyes, his walk, his stubbornness. The truth was loud even in silence. Meanwhile, Ella tried her best to stay invisible. She took a small job as a junior editor in a publishing house, just enough to pay rent and school fees. Her world revolved around Alex. She avoided all familiar places and people connected to Ethan, fearing confrontation. But fate had other plans. One rainy afternoon, Ethan arrived at Alex's school. He didn't say a word. He just watched. Watched the boy laugh with his classmates, tie his shoelaces with focus, help a friend who had dropped his books. Ethan's heart twisted. This wasn't just any child. This was his son, the son he never knew existed. But before he could make a move, Ella appeared. Her eyes locked onto Ethan's from across the schoolyard. Time paused. Her breath hitched. She hadn't seen him in years. But that look, cold, unreadable, intense, was the same. She grabbed Alex's hand and turned away, but Ethan's voice stopped her. "Is he mine?" The world spun. Alex looked up, confused. Ella froze. She didn't answer, because what could she say? That she had left to protect him, that she had tried to tell him once, but his assistant never let her through, that she had written letters that were never returned, that she had wanted to keep the child away from the same cruel business world that had crushed her spirit. The confrontation had only just begun. But this wasn't just a fight between two ex-lovers. This was about truth, about a child who had unknowingly become the center of a storm. Ethan wanted answers. Ella wanted peace. And neither of them were ready for the emotional earthquake that was about to unfold. In the shadows, someone else watched. Ethan's half-brother, Leo Chin, who always felt second to Ethan's perfection. He had once been in love with Ella too, and still carried that wound like a badge. And now, with this new twist, he saw a crack in Ethan's world. One he could use. As the pieces started moving on the board, one thing became clear. No one would come out of this untouched. Ella stood frozen, her fingers tightening around Alex's hand as Ethan's question echoed in her ears. Is he mine? For a moment, everything around her blurred. The children's laughter faded, the rustling leaves went silent, and all she could hear was her heartbeat thudding in her chest. She looked into Ethan's eyes that once held so much love, now filled with pain, anger, and something else she couldn't quite name. Yes, she finally whispered, the word heavy like a lifetime of secrets. He's your son, Ethan. Didn't react right away. He just stood there, staring at Alex, his expression unreadable. Then he slowly crouched down, looking the boy in the eyes. Hi, he said gently. I'm Ethan. Alex looked up at his mother, unsure. Ella nodded softly, and Alex gave a small smile. Hi. That one moment cracked something open in Ethan. All the years he'd lost, all the milestones he'd missed, his first steps, his first words, the scraped knees and bedtime stories. It all hit him at once, and for the first time in years, Ethan Kin felt helpless. Back at home that night, Ella sat at the edge of her bed, her mind racing. She had always feared this day, not because Ethan was cruel, but because she had once loved him so deeply, it scared her. And losing him the way she did, with no goodbye, no closure, had left scars she thought would never heal. But the truth had come out now. There was no going back. The next few days were a whirlwind. Ethan asked for time with Alex. Slowly, he started spending afternoons with him, taking him to the park, helping with homework, learning how to be a father. And Alex, curious and kind-hearted, opened up like a flower in spring. But things weren't simple. Leo Chin, Ethan's half-brother, had been watching from the sidelines, waiting for his moment. He had once proposed to Ella, back when she had left Ethan. She had turned him down, but Leo never forgot the rejection. Now, seeing Ethan have everything, success, love, and a son, rekindled his bitterness. He leaked Ella's identity and her child's paternity to the media. Suddenly, headlines splashed across social media. CEO Ethan Chin's secret son discovered. The press went wild. Paparazzi followed Ella to Alex's school. Ethan was hounded with questions at board meetings. And Ella, she broke. Her safe small world had shattered. Ethan acted quickly. He held a press conference calmly addressing the rumors. Yes, I have a son, he said clearly. And I love him more than I can ever explain. His mother is a wonderful woman who did what she had to do. I ask for privacy for our family. The public softened. Ethan's raw honesty turned the tide. That night, he showed up at Ella's doorstep. She looked exhausted, her shoulders slumped, but her eyes still carried fire. I never wanted this, she said quietly. I just wanted a normal life for him. I know, Ethan replied, and I want to help give him that, but not just as a father. I want to be part of your life too. If you'll let me. Ella looked at him for a long moment. Then she asked, what about Leo? I've cut him out of the company, Ethan said firmly, and out of our lives. He made his choice. Silence hung in the air. Then slowly, Ella stepped aside, letting Ethan in, not just into her home, but into her heart again. Months passed. Life didn't become perfect overnight, but it got better. Alex adjusted to having both parents. Ethan learned how to slow down, to show up not just in business meetings, but in school plays and bedtime rituals. Ella returned to her passion, writing, and I started a children's book series, inspired by a brave little boy named Alex. In the final scene, under the soft golden light of a setting sun, the three of them sat on a park bench, laughing, talking, whole. Their journey had been painful, messy, and full of broken pieces, but somehow, in choosing forgiveness and love over pride and resentment, they found something stronger than they had before. And sometimes, that's what real family looks like. Not perfect, but perfectly meant to be.